Hey guys, my name is Rodney Banta, otherwise known as Rodney, and this is your D&D channel. So today we're going to be talking about one of my personal favorite classes to play, the Wizard. The Wizard has many different ways to be played. It's probably the most versatile class in the entire game, and it's up for debate whether it's the strongest class ever made, or in existence at the very least. So a great example of what a high-level wizard can do is shatter entire countries, destroy entire planets. I mean, they can do some crazy mind-numbing shenanigans when you get to level 20 or so. By level 21, Epic Wizard, you can invent your own spells. That's a part of epic casting. And then your DM just says, that's a spellcraft check to cast. It doesn't... This epic casting has no spell slots. You just have it now. You can just do it, whatever. Pass the spellcraft, weave the epic, as much magic as you want. But let's get into it. So, wizards have 7 different disciplines that they can specialize into. So they can be an abjuration specialist, a conjuration specialist, a divination specialist, an evocation specialist, an enchantment specialist, a necromancy specialist, as well as an illusionary specialist. So, necromancy, illusionary, I think I'm missing one. Maybe it's universalist. But there's definitely one more. Well, I'm sure we'll run into it later in the video. But yeah, so if you choose to specialize in a certain discipline of magic, you get 1 more spell per day in that specific school of magic. So what are these schools of magic? Abjuration is the study of manipulating energy fields, so essentially making someone stronger or adding a shield to somebody to buff their armor class. But essentially you could call abjuration spells buff spells. Buffs and party affecting, mechanical spells. They're going to make your party faster or tougher or more durable. Maybe they give them, more hit points for the most part, or more AC. A lot of the time they'll move people, but that usually comes into other schools. Then you've got conjuration. That's the study of summoning and binding of interplanetary and interdimensional beings. So this includes things from the eldritch all the way to the heaven and hell type things, such as angels and demons. So, people who specialize in conjuration, are going to be able to do summon demons and devils from other planes, as well as just summon hawks and things like that from other realms. But for the most part, conjuration mages are eventually going to be doing the traditional contract shenanigans. Like, they can summon a devil to tempt them with a devil deal, and when the devil arrives, they arrive in a magic circle, and then they have a contract, but the wizard side of things isn't my soul or something, it's to leave this circle, you gotta give me magic powers. And it's like, fuck, that the demon's gonna say yes. Now that doesn't mean he's not gonna kill you as soon as he leaves the circle, but he is bound by that magical contract. You do have those magic powers, and if you kill him, you just have them now. Like, that's what a conjuration wizard's 7th to 9th level is gonna look like. Then you also have divination. This is far sight, things like that, abilities to expand the mind beyond the realm of the body, see into far spaces, hear long distances. Expanding the senses is just one school of it, but also just scrying in general, the drop of water on a mirror on the wall kind of stuff. Evocation and enchantment are some of the more fun ones. So enchantment, that should be illegal. Enchantment, it should be illegal. Every country should outlaw enchantment. Enchantment is incredibly wrong to do. It is vile by nature, but for some reason it's extremely common. Now, why would enchantment magic be common? Friends. You're a lonely girl in the little small town world. You get on the midnight train to Georgia. Well, you didn't realize it, but by singing those songs, you were a bard casting an enchantment spell, making friends. And when they all, when you finish your song and they're all, done with their applause, it hits them like, I didn't actually like that song very much. And then they're like, why did I like that? And then they don't like you anymore. That's what enchantment magic does. It manipulates the minds and the opinions of others. So, it's the roofie discipline. I mean, if you meet an enchantress, what do you think she's gonna do? She's gonna dance around all what's, and manipulate people. So it's a really, really, really wrong school of magic to practice, but you do still have some of the best spells in the game in there for just manipulating NPCs. So in a video game setting, it makes sense, in Skyrim, you can cast, easy, Mercantile 100. But if you Mercantile 100 yourself and then swindle somebody for a bunch of gold, what happens 5 minutes later when you walk out the room? This isn't a video game. That guy's gonna realize you swindled him with magic, and he's gonna literally either hire bandits to attack you, maybe he might just come and rob you, or he might hire the guards in town to arrest you. Enchantment magic it should be illegal. Some DMs, they're like, yeah, it's not illegal, but it's like, it should be illegal in a world that knows that this magic exists. Evocation is manipulation of elemental energies. So that's your Avatar Last Airbender stuff. You want to be a firebender, waterbender, earthbender. You move matter and energy with magic. That's what you're doing. I summon fire, whatever, water. Damage spells, for the most part, come out of the evocation school. If it's not... Now that's a very important description, differentiator between evocation spells and conjuration damaging spells. So some spells, like Acid Splash, will be a conjuration spell. Why is that? Because you are summoning that acid from somewhere. Like, specifically like the plane of fire, where the fire meets water, it's acid. So fire, water is acid. So when you summon the fire, water, from the plane of fire, you get acid, and then that summons through a literal, like, little portal in your hands, and you're like, splash, and then that splashes somebody. But why that's important is you created that acid. Like, you teleported it here. It's here now. It stays on the guy. He's now got acid all over him. Even if he's not taking continuous damage from the acid, it's still not cool to do to somebody, and it's going to be very distracting to them. Now, if you use an evocation spell that does acid damage, that is literally like, magic is boiling their skin. Like, there is no physical acid on their person. It is simulating the effects of an acid burn or a chemical burn on their body. So an evocation spell, heat is more like the person melting from the plasma energy that you've created, rather than like, I literally created a ball of fire. It's like, no, you just made a region super freaking hot. It's what you actually did. So yeah, it looks like a fireball because it is kind of a fireball, but you didn't like literally conjure the element fire. You made that region so hot, fire spontaneously occurred there. Very, very big differentiator between the two schools of magic. And that's the, you're not going to have lingering effects of evocation magic. Like, you might burn the element, the region, if it's fire or something, but acid doesn't stick around. It's not going to pollute the environment. Whereas conjuration mages do pollute the environment, like, for real. So after evocation, we've got illusion. Illusion magic is one of my favorite schools of magic. Gnomes are traditionally your illusionists. They go around, they're able to create little mimicry fires, little torches, they can false image, but there's many different types of illusions. One of the main ones is a mirage, so you create an actual projection in front of you. It is here. If I put my hand through it, it ripples. But there's also a mental image. A mental image is inside your mind. So those are like projected on the eyeball itself or inside the mind. So those ones usually have a will save to resist versus knowing whether they're real or not. Like a will save to resist if it's in your head because you magically are being compelled with this. Versus I've created a picture in your face, you have a percentage chance or a roll to know if it's real or fake or not. So that's basically evocation magic. It's your damage spells. And illusion magic is your creation spells, but there's also shadows. So shadows are a type of magic coming from what's called the shadow weave. So the plane of shadows exists on top of prime materia in a very similar way to the ethereal plane. So the same way that a ghost can manifest in the material plane if it fights against the ethereal current hard enough, a shadow being, your shadow, can also manifest in the material plane if it for some reason was hostile to you. Now, conjurers can actually use this, illusionists can actually use that matter, the matter that your shadow is made of, the shadow matter, and turn that into a living thing, like Peter Pan's shadow. And if they make a shadow, it is a percentage real because it's made out of another plane's matter. It's not a projection. It is real. So the shadow Peter Pan can stab you with his dagger and it works. Your shadow got stabbed. You got stabbed. It's not great. But shadows are only a certain percentage real based on how believable they are. So your shadow puppet, turns out it's only as good as you can make it look. So you do need to have a certain level of proficiency in making the shadow. So what I mean is, as a wizard levels up, who is a specialist in conjuration magic, they'll unlock Shadow Lesser, Shadow Greater, and those are going to create. It's like literally as if it was conjuration. It does the same effect, and then it says, but it's a shadow. So what does that mean? It means you go to the monster manual, to the creature's shadow, and you add that to the monster. So it's like, all right, I make a Shadow Tarask. It's a Tarask, but it's got 7 hit dice of Shadow. Now, after that calculation, we then reduce it by 60% effectiveness. Now, how you do that, in my opinion, you just have them fight it like normal, and then anytime a number comes up that the boss did, it is 60% or whatever. So I hit you for 100, it actually hits you for 60. Way easier to do than just create a whole new level 40 monster or whatever every time. On top of that, it's like, what's its hit points? 60%. Like, what's its AC? 60%. Like, etc. Way easier than trying to actually just make a new monster every time someone does this. But in order to create a shadow creature, you are going to need to gather a certain amount of shadow matter. And where are you going to get that shadow matter? You have to go to the plane of shadows yourself. Like, you can't just scoop your shadow up in Prime Materia. You've got to cast Plane Shift and go there. Now, there are like spell jams and ways to do that, but for the most part, it's not the easiest place to get to. It's a lot harder to get to than the ethereal plane or the plane of mirrors, which are also like the nearest layered planes where it's like Prime Materia is my hand. You've got the ethereal plane is like engulfing it, like it's like sitting on top of it. Whereas you have other planes that are just other planes. They're like literally floating in space above it. Ethereal is sitting on top of it. Shadow sitting on top of that. Mirror is sitting on top of that. So mirror has mirror shadow. Mirror has mirror ethereal. See what I mean? Whereas the other ones don't have mirror. Mirror is the top. But anyway. So after illusion, you have necromancy. Necromancers are manipulating life energy. So many people mistake this and assume that necromancers are all just zombie animating fanatics. No. A cleric, by nature of what they are, 90% of the time, is a necromancer. So necromancy is positive energy or negative energy. So healing somebody, regenerating a limb, regrowing lost organs, these kinds of things are necromancy, by nature of what they are. Now, if you choose to use that for evil, it is negative energy necromancy. So that kind of necromancy is corruptive, drives you mad, makes you evil, and eventually will usually make you an undead if you do it too much. Whereas life energy necromancers could be a healer. Like, I'm not talking a cleric. I mean, your class is called healer, and it's an arcane class that gets cures, and whatnot. But why you would play one? Oh, God, they're terrible. But they're in DMG 1. Like, they're base class. They're terrible. There's no reason to play one. But that's what a good necromancer is. They're way worse than clerics in every regard for healing. So you just would never make one or play one. But you can't do that. Now, another way that you can practice good necromancy as a wizard would be learning spell scrolls. So if you get your hands on a cleric spell scroll, I've looked into this with my boys. There's nothing stopping a wizard from learning a cleric spell scroll. They in fact, when you go to the spell scroll list in the DMG, you will find that every cleric spell is in the wizard spell scroll table. Now, why is that when the opposite is not true? Well, it means that in the past, wizards have done that, and now every wizard spell, or every cleric spell, is included, at least all the core ones, in the DMG1 wizard scroll list. So you could just buy a scroll, an arcane wizard scroll of Cure Moderate Wounds, and then learn that as a 3rd level wizard spell. Or a 2nd level wizard spell. So yeah, you're not as good as a healing cleric at doing it, but you can still learn that spell. So that casting, the discipline that Cure Light Wounds would be in, would be the necromancy discipline. So if you were a necromancer specialized and you had Cure Light Wounds prepped, you would cure as a healing cleric would cure. You'd be pretty much just as good as they are at that. So you can be that character. Like I said, wizards are super versatile. They can do kind of anything. Necromancy is also going to allow you to graft bodies and make undead. So it's very, very fun and very, very powerful. Necromancer, then Universalist. Universalist is going to contain most of the standard spells in the game, magic missile and stuff like that. Manipulation of magic in general. If you pluck on the weave or whatever, that's what you're doing. So let's get into some ways to actually build your wizard, some completely necessary, if not just absolutely recommended feats. So as a wizard, you're going to have a couple of options, but you should really be trying to get into a full casting prestige class as soon as possible, because all you're really getting as you level up as a wizard is going to be every 5 levels of free meta magic feat, and your familiar gets stronger as you level up. So if you don't really care about the familiar getting stronger, prestige out as soon as possible, and there are some prestige classes that are very easy to get into for a wizard of your caliber. I recommend Storm Surge, or something like that. It's Stormcaster, Stormcaller. It's out of Stormrack. It is probably one of my favorite wizards. You get free spell slots from the sky, and then on top of getting free casting, every time you cast a spell, you thunderclap, and it makes an explosion around you of lightning damage. So it's a cool lightning mage. So I really recommend looking into that prestige class. But you can also go Eldritch Knight if you just want if you want to be a magic knight. But the problem with some of these classes is going to be how difficult they are to get into. So if you want to become like an archmage, you're going to need to be like level 10 or whatever. But a way to get into some of the easier classes to get into would be Prodigious Apprentice. This is a must-take for Cerebromancers. What is a Cerebromancer? It's a psionic wizard. But yeah, so if you have the ability to cast a second-level wizard spell and the ability to cast a second-level psionic power, you're able to take the prestige class Cerebromancer. Every time you level up as a Cerebromancer, you gain full casting progression as if you leveled up in Wizard and in Scion. So by the time you hit level 11 in this class, or level 10 in this class, level 12 total character, you're going to have 5th level spells and 5th level powers at full casting ability. You're literally just one wizard level down. It's not bad at all. You're not going to get 6th until level 12, but that's totally reasonable. But yeah, so if you want to make that build work, what are you going to need? Prodigious Apprentice. So that means you're a prodigy. Prerequisite for this feat is you must take it at first level. It's a creation feat. But on top of that, you have to have a mentor. Like, you have to, in your backstory, tell your DM, I was studying under a wizard. Now, why is that? This feat's benefit is it gives you a second level spell slot at first level. That means that you only need 1 level of wizard to get into Cerebromancer now. So that means you can take 2 levels of Scion, 1 level of Wizard, and get into Cerebromancer at level 4. That means by level 14, you are casting as if you're a level 13 Wizard and a level 14 Scion. Gotta hand it to it. That's got to be one of the strongest, if not the strongest characters in the entire game. It is incredibly powerful. You just spell spam nonstop. And if you run out of mana, you just use your power points. If you run out of power points and mana, what are you fighting? And if things are immune to magic, you have psionics. So Prodigious Apprentice, must take. Another great one to take is Energy Substitution. Energy Substitution is going to allow you to substitute the damage type of any spell for any other spell. This means you can turn Fireball into an Acid Ball or an Ice Ball or whatever. Changes damage value. Silver Ball, Bludgeoning Ball, Slashing Ball, whatever. Just totally change its energy type. That's one of the most enjoyable spells. But as I mentioned in many of my videos, like in the Cleric or in the Fighter or even in the Ranger, you're gonna need to have damage types. If you're fighting big different types of enemies, sometimes you don't want to hit them with slashing or positive energy. Fighting angels and your guy casts Fireball, you might heal some of those guys. If you're fighting demons and devils, you're gonna heal those guys. So you need to have the ability to freely change your spell casting. On top of Energy Admixture, or Energy Substitution, you can take Energy Admixture. This can be taken requiring substitution, but this feat tree allows you to add damage type values together. So now I cast a Fire Ice Ball, or an Acid Fireball, or a Slashing Bludgeoning Ball. Really fun builds that way. Shape Spell allows you to turn Fireball into Fire Line or Fire Cone. It lets you change the shape of any spell. But if you combine Energy Admixture, Energy Substitution, and Shape Spell for 3 caster levels higher, or 3 spell levels higher, you can make any spell do any shape and any damage value at 150% efficiency as if it's empowered. Now, why is that so good? Empower spell is 2 higher! So you're actually 1 level higher and you're getting multiple damage values. Fantastic. And there are feats to make meta magic easier. Now, I don't know any off the top of my head. They're really hard to find. Most DMs don't recommend them because meta magic is a balancing mechanic. But like I said before at the beginning of the video, spell components are going to be a very big mechanic for the wizard. You're going to need to have access to your witch's hut. You need to have like a carriage or something if you're a traveling wizard, because as you're going around, you're collecting weird spell components, which are kind of hilarious. Like, for instance, Detect Thoughts. 1 copper piece is the only material component. Penny for your thoughts? But on top of the material components being like hilarious jokes and all that, some of them can be pretty expensive. Like if you want to animate a zombie, you have to have 1 onyx per eye slot that costs at least 10 gold pieces. So that means each zombie is at least 20 gold to build. At least, minimum. Because you need the gemstones. But where do you get onyxes? What if you're in the desert? You don't have access to onyx. You gotta go buy that at a store in town? Well, no one sells onyxes anymore because everyone knows that's used to make zombies. So you're gonna have to get some rubies because even if rubies make skeletons, people still know that rubies are expensive and cool rocks, so you're still gonna be able to find those somewhere. But that's why what you'll find in the DMG when it gives you all those trinkets, it's like, why is it giving me a brass candelabra? It's like, well, did you want to cast Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion? You're gonna need some furniture for that. Like, that's what the spell components are. They're all like that. Now, on top of casting as a wizard, for spell components, there's also the dance aspect to it. Wizards are literally choreographed dancers. They know what they're doing. They got the moves. They got the grooves. So when a wizard casts a spell, they're literally shmum-shwaying. They're doing their thing. They're literally dancing. And the amount of movement that requires makes spellcasting difficult in things like armor, wearing shields, or heavy equipment in general. So if you're at a medium load, you shouldn't really cast spells. And if you're in heavy armor, very difficult to cast spells. This is why classes like Eldritch Knight are good, because they're going to make you able to cast spells in armor. If you are going to want to wear armor, chain shirts are good. Mithril chain shirts are better. Mithril chain mail is the best. Elven chain is Mithril chainmail at +2 from the DMG at a reasonable price. So if you're a wizard, that's worth looking into. If you're a good or evil wizard, you can look into either a white or black robe of the Archmagi, but those are very expensive, so you're not going to be able to get your hands on one of those until level 10 or something. So I wouldn't expect to find that in any medium or low tier dungeon. That's your end goal armor. On top of armor and such, wizards are going to be able to enchant magical items by taking craft or brew a feats. So item creation metamagic feats are going to allow your character to extend their usability beyond their spell list. So what I mean is, let's say I have 3 remaining spells of Scorching Ray, and we just killed 10 goblins today. Well, I can burn 30 XP that we just got from those garbage goblins and pick up some sticks and make some rods of Scorching Blast. Now I've got 3 charges in this rod, so my spells aren't lost today. And so if you take enchantment feats, you're going to be able to build enchanted items, and that's a very powerful ability. Clerics can also do this, but you don't really see them doing it very much, because when a cleric builds an enchanted item, it's called a relic. So if you're not wielding that weapon in the same religion as the guy who made it, it doesn't work. But a wizard weapon just works if you enchant it. That's a very big deal in how these things work. So, like, for instance, a relic would be like, in the hands of this longsword, in the hands of a normal warrior, is a +1 longsword. But in the hands of a paladin of Hieronius, it becomes a +4 longsword of orc decapitation. Like, that's how a relic will work. Versus a wizard would just be like, it's a +4 longsword of orc decapitation. It doesn't care who's wielding it. It's not sentient, it doesn't think, it doesn't have alignment, whatever. But the difference is how you're enchanting it. Now, this isn't Skyrim, you're not putting some soul in the item, but you are putting enchantment essence. Now, what enchantment essence is knowledge and experience, or memories as we would call them, distilled into a liquid form. This can be done by wizards through magical contraptions, as well as certain spells can literally drain experience points from somebody, and it can be bottled. So this is Minecraft. You can make liquid XP. It's very, very possible. And there are entire campaign modules centered around characters trying to gather large amounts of people to make into liquid XP. It's very, very reasonable to do if you're a bad guy. Great campaign model, and you can have a bad guy who's like level 23 because he's just eating people's experience points. This is Cell. This is Majin Buu. He doesn't generate XP on his own. He eats yours. But yeah, so XP can be distilled and it can be used, and how it is traditionally used is in the school of enchantment when they're enchanting an item. Now, how is that? Why is enchantment magic, the magic that manipulates the brain and makes you fall in love with people, why is that the magic that makes magic items, manipulates objects? It seems kind of weird. Wrong. You're doing the same thing. What is weave? The magicules or whatever are made up pretty much entirely of soul matter. Like, if you are a magic worshipping dude, like you're a wizard, you don't worship any gods. Well, what happens when you die? Huh? Where do you go? You go into the weave. The magic itself grabs you and dissipates your spirit across all of the weave, making the weave a little bit stronger. So you can kind of view wizardry in a religious sense of the weave propagating itself. So the weave invests a little bit of its spark in a low-level wizard when they're young. And then as they grow, they mature that spark into a very powerful web of weave. And when they finally die, that is incorporated back into the weave, making the overall network of the weave a little bit stronger. And that's why as more wizards live in your world, magic gets stronger. And if you killed all of the wizards in your world, theoretically, magic dies. But that also would be up for, magic gods, maybe they would feel the weave. I don't know, don't quote me on that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure if you killed every magic caster in a campaign plane, it should end magic. At least arcane magic. Now, divine magic is not sourced from the weave, so you could destroy the weave and still have divine magic, and you'd still have psionics. But if you are sourcing your magic from that beautiful network web way of magical molecules chained together, well, that is built from spirits of people, like living things and gods that were great magic things that have died, fueled that. They built that network that we call the weave. So when you are plucking experience out of the weave to cast a spell, it's people. And when you make an enchanted item, let's say my hand's a sword here, I'm actually building a permanent network point on the material plane in the form of this sword. So it's channeling the weave. That's why a divine weapon enchantment is different. Even though they use the same feats and the same techniques, it is different because it is not built on the weave. It is built on a different network of magic. So, when you enchant stuff, you're going to need special materials. You're going to need magic items, like the root components. So one way to do this is masterworking. Any item that you want to enchant has to be masterwork. So you're going to want to have some sort of blacksmith in your party or something so you can make use of all that party treasure if you're running enchantment. I would say having an enchanter in your party, if you're running XP, you will lose levels. It will happen. You will be, by the end of the game, a year or two in, a whole session of XP behind people, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 back. But if you really think about how low that is in the cost of an entire campaign run, by the time you're level 18, you don't really care about 2,000 XP anymore. Because if you fight a single encounter, your XP as a level 17 for beating that will be 2,000 more than your party member's level 18's XP they earn. So then you will match their XP after one battle. It's like that's how enchantment pays off. You will get it back. Like the lower your level, the more XP you get. So it pays for itself. Now if you're going to be an enchanter, Magic Item Compendium is a must-have. I can't tell you enough. I wouldn't be where I'm at without it. It is absolutely one of the best books you can buy. And if you're going to enchant stuff, it tells you how to do it, what material components it requires, where to get them, etc. But things that you might need are going to be like feathers of birds and eggs of birds are a big one. Matter, like metal gemstones, stuff like that is usually used. But all of this can be averted if you just take the feat, eschew materials. But anyway, at this point, I'm pretty sure I'm just rambling. But if you have any questions or any comments, or if I forgot to cover an entire school of magic, which I'm pretty sure I did, please leave it in the comments down below. But anyway, that was The Wizard, and that's how it works.